Hey everyone, Leo with Dreaming Tree and welcome to the assembly video for our panoramic egg. Well, let's hop right into it. We're going to begin by just taking care of some little paper piecing to get all these little tiny pieces out of the way. Okay, so the cool thing about this little project is technically, if you are so inclined, you can customize the scene inside. Now obviously we provided one for you, but you're able to, well, I mean, even if you find something that you want to print and cut, you can do that, or you can build your own. We're going to start off by putting together this little egg here. We're going to start off with this large yellow piece, and then we're going to take this green piece and get that glued on top. I'm just going to kind of layer some things right now, mostly paper piecing stuff. We get the scene created. So we're trying to figure out how the heck are we going to get a scene into an egg and still make sure that we fill the whole space that we have. And well, we figured it out, and I hope that you enjoy and find it kind of clever. It is going to require some non-paper elements to, seal the egg, so to speak. This little stripe is going to go right there. You'll notice that there are a series of little markers, right, kind of following the little curvy nature of that piece. So just make sure you match that up. And we're going to grab this little, I'll call it like an orange slice sort of shape. That's going to go right at the bottom. Just want to make sure that you get that nice and flush with the bottom of the egg, like so. And then we have a tiny little, we'll call it a little lemon wedge. That's going to go right at the very base. Okay. So yeah, the scene is a super cute little Easter scene. Captures every little cute little Easter element that you could think of, with bunnies and chicks and a nice green field. Okay, so there's our little egg. And we also have this little patch of eggs. Okay, and we're going to assemble them in this order. So the yellow is going to be at the bottom. We're going to take and glue the blue on top of that. Like so. Just match that up. There's little shadow areas, well, mostly just the little yellow part is going to be peeking out on that one. Okay, this one's going to go like this. I did spend time inking as much as I could. And now keep in mind, you definitely want to just ink the parts that need inking, because a lot of these, we layer them so they're easy to assemble, but that also means that there are sections that will not be visible. So just make sure that you're conscious of that. Now, sometimes with pieces this small, you're going through your inking strokes. It may not take, it's not really a lot of extra work if you do just ink the whole thing, but again, it's not completely necessary. Okay, so that's that. Now, this little part here, we're going to use that later. Okay, but let's take a look at this little chick here. This is the chick in the front. And we've got a black layer, then we have a yellow layer. And I'm asking myself now why I didn't ink this piece. So I'm just going to hit that with a little bit of ink real quick. Try to be as thorough as possible with my inking. Sometimes even the best of us could possibly overlook things. I'm just going to hit just the very top, because most of it is covered up by the actual egg. And I'm not even sure how much of this is going to be, how much of the inking is actually going to be visible inside of the scene, but I feel like every little bit helps. Okay, so let's apply our glue to the back of the chick. This is just fun. This is just getting our feet wet here before we dive into, I don't even want to say challenging, because a lot of you have made similar items in the past. Now, obviously, the engineering on this is completely different, but you can do this. Anybody can do this. Just follow along. Okay, so we've got that in place. We're going to put the blue part of the egg in place. Just make sure that it's nice and flush at the bottom and on the sides, so that the little chick's coming out. There we go, just like that. And then we're gonna have this little white piece that's gonna go on. Just make sure that you're putting it on correctly. Make sure that I'm doing it right. Let's see, I don't think that, no. The rounded side is gonna be over here on this side, like that. This is a white pearlescent. Like I said, I tried to ink as much as I could, but some things just probably don't need that extra step. You can omit it. You won't even notice. And then we have a little stripe, and then of course there's a little piece for the nose. And that's just gonna go right down the center. Really pretty, okay? And then for the nose, if you have a little pick-me-up tool, this would be the time to use it. Definitely handy for dealing with tiny little pieces like this. And we try to avoid little pieces when possible, but of course, our little chickie needs a nose. So it's going to go right in the center there. You know, sometimes I didn't have the other little piece that goes with my pick-me-up tool, so I had nothing to press it down. And it just goes to show that you can definitely accomplish that with just your fingers. It's not a big deal. Okay, so these elements are all together. I'm going to bring these over here for now. In the meantime, let's take care of some more smaller elements. These two layers are going to get glued together. Okay, they're both the same, so it doesn't really matter. Which one goes on top. They're identical, and we double layered it just so that it's a little more sturdy. And just try to get glue on as many of the surfaces as possible so that it, in fact, stays together. And if you don't get it all the first go around, don't worry about it, because we can always use my little painting technique to kind of finish it up. Let's just get it anchored initially. Try to line it up as accurately as you can, especially among these fine little details. Some of these can kind of have a mind of their own and sort of float freely. But do your best to get them lined up, and then once you have most of it, grab yourself a few pieces of scrap paper. Just have them on hand. I always cut mine out and just kind of keep them in a little box so that I can access them whenever I feel like I'm going to need them. Like this little piece here. Just throw a little dot, like a little bit of glue right on the very edge. And then you can take it and literally tuck it in between two layers that just need a little extra love to stay together. Like these little details here on this flower. And this one here. I'm using the non-gluey part of my little scrap piece to kind of get in between the layers, and then I'll spread a little bit of glue right on whatever I need to spread it on. So not only does it help me kind of get in between the layers, but helps me apply the glue where I need it without trying to get a whole glue bottle nozzle in there, which would probably be a disaster. Okay. There we go. And just press those together. Just make sure that the majority of it is glued together. There we go. This little guy needs a little extra love. Okay. I think that'll work. I always throw these scraps away when I'm done so I don't accidentally glue it to something else. All right, so now you're gonna find these little half flowers. Okay, there's a handful of them. The ones that have 4 petals are actually gonna go on top of our egg, so don't worry about those. We also have a tiny little guy here. We're gonna need that. Okay, and then let's see, let's find the biggest lighter color. Okay, and that one. That's gonna go right here, like so. You know, it's like painting kind of, and I guess it depends on whether or not you want. Do you want your painting to be realistic? Do you want it to be like an impressionist painting where it kind of gives you the idea of what it is, but it's sort of not really true to life? Okay, so that one's gonna go there. Just kind of have to match them up. And again, I'm gonna do the lighter color first, and then we'll do the darker color so you can see where everything goes. It's mostly self-explanatory. So eventually by just kind of moving pieces around and matching them up, you'll figure out where everything goes. There's really no sense in putting like a naming or numbering convention on this stuff. I think that's overkill. Okay. This little guy is going to go right here. Like that. And you really just need a tiny amount of glue for these little pieces. Not much to them. So don't overload it. We're still on the lighter color here. Okay. That one's going to go there. And just do your best to get that lined up as accurately as you can. There we go. Okay, and I've got one more lighter one. It's going to go right here. And I'm literally just squeezing a little bit of glue out of my bottle and then just dabbing it. I'm not continuing to squeeze while I apply. That would just be too much. Okay. All right, now we have 3 of the darker ones left. The largest of the 3 is going to go right here. So squeeze and just dab, and then you can actually just take and if you put too much on one of the petals, just use the tip of the nozzle to sort of grab and pull some off of it so that you can spread it onto the next section. Okay, and then this little guy is going to go right here. Just like that. Just match it up with the petal on the right, and then the rest of it will fall into place. There we go. And then we have the last one here. Let's go right there. Oops, not enough glue on that one. Just got to feel it out. There we go. Okay. Okay, now you'll notice a little marker right here, and that's for this little solo white flower. Literally one little dot of glue on that, and just use the marker as your guide. Pop that right into place. All right. And we do have this little purple element, and that's just to kind of create a little shadow. And there is one little flower attached to it. So go ahead and apply your glue to that. Okay, there's, like I said, there's a little shadow element there to help you with the positioning of that. You can see the part of the wing is there, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Okay, and then just make sure that flower looks like it's in the right spot. Here we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting this. We're going to put this yellow on top of the black. So go ahead and apply your glue. Okay, so this will also kind of stiffen it up and make it so much easier. I almost put the wrong thing on there. There you go, just make sure you line up the chick. It's probably the most important thing here. There we go. Okay, and you see this little funky shape in there. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to glue that in there like so. So go ahead and apply some glue to the back of this. And just pop that in there like a little puzzle. And then you're going to have a little purple circle. And that's going to go right here. And that is just to give some color to these little flowers. Okay, so next we're going to take this layer and glue that into place. And you can see how that matches up. Pretty straightforward. And there's our beautiful color popping through for our flowers. We'll press that into place, and then we have Chickie's little nose. I'm just going to pop a dot of glue in there. A little tiny dot. And there is her nose. Just drop that right in there. And there we go. A little chickie. Okay. So the way this is going to work eventually is we're going to begin layering this whole project like this, and then our bunny's going to go here, and then we have our chick. It's really simple, and this is actually going to act as our little skeleton piece for the assembly of the egg as well. Okay, so for our bunny, we're going to start off with this piece here. Okay, so let's take this and glue this onto our brown layer. We just match up. I'm looking at the feet here on the right hand side, and then his face. Just get that lined up as accurately as you can. Just like that. The arm and the foot are going to go on last. Okay, there's some clouds and a little wispy thing. The rest of these little elements are for our bunny. Okay, so we're gonna put that together. And actually, what we can do right now is take this egg that we put together earlier, and we can actually glue that down onto our bunny. You can do that now. You can see the shape of the egg right here. So that's going to go right there, like so. And just try to cover up any of that white so it's not peeking through there on the left-hand side. There we go, really pretty. Okay, and it looks like the top part of the eye there It's kind of dangling off for me a little bit, so I'll just throw a little extra glue right in that area. Get that in place. Okay, now what we can do is, let's get his ears in place. We'll do the more tedious stuff towards the end. That's going to go right here. Just get that nice and centered. Now this little guy is going to go right here along the very edge on the left-hand side. Try to maintain that round curve on his head. Okay, so we've got that. Let's put his mouth in place. That's going to eventually house his nose and his little tongue. Just a little dot of glue will do. I'm not worried about getting glue on every, and there's a little marker there to help you with the positioning of this little piece. Just make sure you get that in the right spot, like so. Okay, let's get his nose in place. It's gonna go right there on top of the black, like so. And then we have his little tongue. This is where I'm gonna definitely grab my little pick-me-up tool. And then of course we have his eyes. If you want, you can maybe, I don't know if I would put googly eyes on him. It might make him look weird. I don't want him to look weird. Okay. So there's a little valley on a part of this. That valley is going to be the top. Okay, so you want it to look like that. Nice, coming together real nice. And now let's take a look at his eyes. The eyes kind of curve, and one is a little bit bigger than the other. The bigger one's going to go on the right-hand side. Okay, so just start kind of laying things out, and then find the pieces that kind of match up with each one. Okay, that one's a little bit smaller, and this one's got a curve. That one's a little more flat. This one's got a little bit of a curve, and that one's a little more flat, so it's going to go like that. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, and so we're going to put the white on top of the black, and then the blue, and then one more black. It's a little painting, basically. All right, now this white piece, we're going to leave a little bit of a black border at the bottom. Just try to get that aligned as accurately as you can. There we go. Oops. Slide that over a tad. There we go. Let's get our blue piece in place. And just kind of dab that with your finger if needed. Now this next blue piece, get that flush with the bottom of the white. There we go. And then finally, our black piece, you also want that flush with the previous layer on the bottom. Okay, maybe a little too much glue on there. The pick-me-up tool is a lifesaver when it comes to working with these small little pieces. And I had a little bit of sticky that got left over there from the pick-me-up. You just rub that off. It'll come off. It's not supposed to stay on there, but sometimes it does. There we go. Okay, and then this whole thing, as you can see, is going to fit in here like a little puzzle piece. And there it is. Okay, so that fit nicely. And if you want to build it inside his head, or like in this little area, instead of doing it, you know, outside of it and then adding it, that's fine. Either way, same result. Okay, it looks kind of weird right now with one eye. I need to get this other eye in there ASAP. I feel kind of bad for him. So you can do it this way too. Whatever works for you. Should fit in there nicely. Okay, next the white layer. And then, as far as these little tiny pieces, we're pretty much done. They're not so bad. They're not bad at all. This one, again, you want to get that centered. And this might actually be easier doing it inside like this. Okay, I'm going to grab my pick-me-up tool and actually let me flatten this out a little bit so it doesn't get left on my paper here. Okay, let's dab that, thin it out. That's going to go flush at the bottom of the white. There we go. And then finally our little black layer. Just one little dot. I'm just using the tip of my fingernail to hold it down. And there we go. And if you have some liquid pearls and you want to add a little bit of whites, you can do that. I might do that because it kind of looks like maybe you found a patch of mushrooms or something. And we don't want that. Okay, so next I'm going to grab my foam squares actually, because we're going to add a little bit of dimension to our little bunny friend here. I'm going to use some really small ones on his foot. Okay, and that's going to go right here. Just match that up with the shadow, like so. And then I think we'll probably get away with just using one, maybe two, just for good measure right here on his arm. That'll work. Okay, and that's going right here, like he's holding the egg. Bring that up a little bit, pardon my head. And there's our little bunny. And actually, this, I feel like I could have positioned this a little bit better. That's the wonderful thing about foam squares is they are forgiving, yet they stay in place. I don't know how they do that. Okay. This is going to be also foam squared. Let me see here. Yeah, I think we're ready to kind of assemble the scene here. So let's do that. All right, start back most layered here. And we'll put these in place. Actually, we should probably put them in place after we put this layer down. Okay, so this of course is going to go flush at the bottom and the sides. So we can take and apply our glue to this whole thing. Like so. And it's just going to go like this. Make sure it's flush at the bottom. It's going to be very important that we get this as flush as possible for when we're actually constructing the egg. Okay. All right, and then we have a larger cloud and a smaller cloud and then a little swoosh. Okay, and we do have markers for all of them. The larger cloud is going to go right here. You can see there's little markers. There's one that's like a backwards L and then one that's a little bit more round. That's where the larger cloud is going to go. So just pop that into place using those little markers. Try to get it on top of the markers so that you hide them. Okay, smaller cloud is going to go up a little bit higher. It's right here, just slightly above the larger cloud. That's where the smaller cloud is going to go. Like so. And then we have our little swoosh. And it's going to be shaped like, is that an S? Backwards S. And you can see there's a marker here for the point and then another marker here for the other point. So just do your best to get that lined up. Okay. If you got too much glue on there, just thin it out with your finger so it doesn't go spraying all over. Okay, there we go. All right, so we've got that in place. Our next layer is going to be this layer here. And you can do this flat if you want. I think it would be nice if we start layering this to really, give it that super dimensional appearance. I think that would be nice. So I'm going to begin with some larger foam squares on the base of this and fill that up as much as possible with the larger before we get into the smaller areas. So I can put one there, and put one here, and then for the smaller ones, just to kind of keep these flowers in place so they're not moving around too much, try to find some good areas where you can put them. And if you're getting to a point where you're kind of running out of, or the areas are too small, you can always take and cut these with some scissors to make them even smaller so that they fit in these areas. No one's going to see this, but it will help create that dimension and keep things nice and sturdy and in place. So it is pretty important to, and then like on this one here, I'm going to put a quarter one right on that tip, especially on that tip, just because I don't want that flower getting ripped. I want it to sit nice and secure. Oops, drop that. It's okay. And that can go there, and I'm going to do another one over here. It's going to be a work of art, that's for sure. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. It's got all of the delicate areas reinforced, and the majority of it is going to be making solid contact with the previous layer. Just trying to make sure I'm not missing anything here. I don't think I am. Nope. Yeah, so again, this is probably, this is fun. And if I was to break this up into sections, I'd probably, obviously do your cutting, maybe work on this. If you want to break this down into multiple days, work on this on another day, on the first day, and then on the second day, do the assembly, I don't know, whatever. I mean, I'm doing this all in one fell swoop because it's not that bad. All right, next, we're going to take this chick, and I do also want to add some dimension to this one. I'm going to get away with just using one foam square on this chick, and you can see exactly where this little chickie's going to go, right on that purple. Okay, and then we're going to take this little section here, and let's see, one foam square should probably do it. Yeah, that's all you need. Okay, and we do have a series of markers here to help you with the positioning of this. You can see there's kind of an upside down V that's going to go right at the very base of that. There's a little marker on the left for that little leaf there, and there we go. Little rhinestone or maybe even liquid pearl there would look nice. Okay, and I think, why don't we do this? Let me add two layers to this to make it pop out even more than the chick. Okay, it's gonna go right there. And then maybe for the bunny, what do you say for the bunny we do 3 layers? Now we're getting crazy. We need to get some more foam squares out. Looks like I ran through all of them already. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do, actually, all we need to do is put foam squares on the main part of his body here, because the ears are not going to make contact with anything. I'm going to go 3 layers on this one. So there's 2 on one side. There's the next one. There's that. There's that. There's our little bunny. And you can see there are some markers here for our bunny as well. And he's going to be right like that. Super cute. Look at that. What a cute little scene. You could almost make a card out of just that alone. All right, cool. All right, so that's that. That's gonna come in handy once we begin assembling 1/2 of our egg. Okay, in the meantime, let's take a look at some other elements here. And we have have some leaf elements. Okay, these guys are actually going to kind of curl down over the top of our egg. So what you want to do is take your dowel, place each leaf between your finger and the dowel, lift it up about 45 to 90 degrees and run the dowel through to kind of make it point down like that. And we can actually, once we get it in place, we may end up bringing it down even more. Eventually it's just going to hug the top of the egg, and like I said, if we need to go back in and make the curve a little more pronounced, then by all means we will. Okay, we've got this little setup there to kind of help you with the positioning of everything. So that's all we need to do there. These little guys here, if you want, what you can do, I would get a thinner dowel for this, and if you want to take and kind of curl these individual little leaves up or down, you can do that. Now with this, I'm just pinching each of the little tips of the leaf against my dowel and either rolling it up or down, depending on which direction you want to go. It's up to you. This is your project. You can do it however you please. But I would do it because it adds a lot of interest. It helps the light kind of play with the paper. It creates shadows and highlights and just makes it look more natural and real instead of just like a paper project. You see that now? You see how when the light hits it, it just kind of almost looks like we inked it. So definitely spend some time doing that. And now the little circles here are for our little flowers, these little guys. Okay, so for this little element here, these flowers, you're going to want to separate these into 2 stacks, 2 white, 2 pink, and a purple. Okay, and we're going to arrange these so that there's some variation, basically. And with each of these, if you want, take like a small dowel and just curl the tips of the petals up to give them a little bit of dimension. I would just go through and kind of like a little assembly line, just get each of those done one at a time. Okay, so we'll have all of these little elements kind of ready to go once the main part of our egg is all assembled. We also have, I think they're little pansies, or I think they're pansies. I'm still learning all these flower names. Yeah, I think they're pansies. So yeah, I just want to give these a little bit of dimension. So again, it's not so obvious that it's paper. We want it to look as lifelike as possible. So I'm just going to curl these up. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing great. It's still winter here, and I am not. I'm ready for some warm weather. It's not fun. Okay, so let's do this. We'll do a pink here, and we'll do a white here. Let's do a purple in the center. Let's do a white here and a pink there. Okay, and then obviously we can put little embellishments in the centers of the flowers, whether it be a little rhinestone or a pearl, or if you want to use liquid pearls, you can do whatever you want. That's up to you. But I think it would be a nice touch to add something to the centers of the flowers to kind of fill them in. Get that on there. And just a little dot of glue is all you need. Just give it a little time and it'll stick. Now you can see here as when I push these down, they sort of flatten out a little bit. That's okay. You can always take and kind of fluff them up later on. So again, with this, I'm going to put a pink one here. Let's just pop that right on there. Doesn't even need to be completely centered. Let's do a white one here. Let's get the purple one in the middle. There we go. Let's get a white one here. Whoops. And then finally, pink one here. There we go, okay. So that is pretty much ready to go. And you can see it automatically already kind of dangles. So we can put that off to the side as well. Getting close here. Now we have 4 flowers to assemble. They're all very simple. And you're going to want to kind of separate these out by color. Okay, so there's going to be 4 white, 4, I guess, light purple, and then 2, 2, and 2 on the darker purple. I'm going to show you how this all works. Okay, and what we're going to want to do is grab yourself a thicker dowel, and we're going to train these like this. I'm just going to take and curl them to kind of cup them. Okay, and we're going to do that with all these petals, like that. And this one here, just kind of curl it around so it kind of cups like that. Okay, so these we're going to go from the center and cup them like this. This one, again, that little hole in the center is going to help you with alignment. But just point your dowel to the center and cup towards the center. If you want to make it more pronounced, you can use a thinner dowel, but I think this one, this is a 1/4 inch dowel, I think. Yeah, roughly, or maybe it's 3/8, but that'll work. Okay, and then literally it's just a matter of lining up the holes and just doing it in a specific order to create each of the flowers. The centers, we're gonna embellish those with, I think what we're gonna do is probably use some gold pearls. And that will kind of act as our stamen, while also adding a little bit of interest and make it a little flashy. Okay, there we go. A few more to go. Definitely take your time and ink these as well. It's always a nice touch. Okay. All right, so move my piles over. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 2 pinks and we're going to kind of layer them like this so that they're just slightly overlapping. Okay, so focus on getting your glue in the center of the flower there on that little circle, and then just match up the holes. And then just press and hold the 2 like that. Okay, and if you're off slightly, not a big deal. Okay, then next, I'm going to take and apply glue to this piece, like so, and then just match up the holes, like that. And then, finally, throw a little bit of glue in the center, and put the white piece down. And eventually, when we're going to probably hot glue this to the center of the flower. Just make sure that you're giving this ample time to dry before you start messing with and trying to kind of create, training it more, I guess. All right, so let me show you one more way of kind of creating a little more interest in these little flowers. Go ahead and throw a little bit of glue on the back of the pink one, and then connect the 2 to where you have the ability to bring this petal in between this one so it slightly overlaps this little guy. Okay, so that just kind of creates a bit more of a dimensional look to the flower. Okay, and then this next purple layer, obviously since we're kind of encroaching onto the front of this one's just going to have to go off to the side a little bit. Honestly, once we actually bring this in and put this on top of our egg, it's going to kind of come in even more. We just want to make sure that everything dries nice and flat before we really shape it. Okay, and another thing that I may end up doing is taking the tips of these and curling them in even more. But it's kind of pointless to do it right now because well, we're still kind of gluing things together, and sometimes that causes things to flatten out. So we'll shape these petals even more and create those shadows and highlights that I talked about with this little piece, okay? Because that looks really pretty. Okay, so just put the white piece is always going to go on last. It's kind of in front, and while I'm holding it there, I'm going to take and just curl this in a little bit more. Okay, you can even curl the bottom a little bit. Just make it look as natural as possible. Just have fun with your dowel. Okay, and again, later on, we're going to take this and really kind of squish it together. Okay. All right, so again, with this, I'm going to throw a little bit of glue. I'm going to do this one. You've got one more to do. You can just kind of do that one on your own. I don't need to show you how to do this 4 different times, I don't think. Okay, there we go. While I'm holding it, I'm going to work it a little bit more. Just add some interest to it. Don't be afraid to bend and shape that paper however you please. Just don't get your fingers stuck to the flower. We don't want that. Okay, get that lined up. There we go. Press and hold. Looking good. And the last one, we're going to leave these sit until the end. Put that in place. Let me bring this in. Just play with it. Okay. You can see here. Yeah, I don't want to mess with it because I'm going to end up breaking it. All right, cool. So that's that. Let's just do something a little bit easier first, and that is putting our base together. We'll be able to put most of it together, not quite all of it. Okay, so I already pre-folded everything here on the score lines. And we're going to grab these panels. Let's get these panels put in place first while everything's flat. You can have a nice even border all the way around this section here. And I did take some time and I inked these pieces as well. So we're kind of getting close here, guys. There's a lot of little prep type stuff that we're going to see. The fruits of our labor here very shortly. So again, just apply your glue to each of these panels. Let's get them in place. And yeah, so anyway, I hope you guys are excited to do some Easter crafts. I know Easter always, well, I know some of you don't live in areas where it gets cold, but I made an announcement. Oh yeah, by the way, I'll mention it again. After a long discussion, we decided that we're going to start offering our files, going forward, retroactively. It might take us quite a while to update all of our content to include an all-in-one file for our Cricut users that, they're kind of forced to upload things one at a time. I was hoping by now that Cricut would give you the ability to bulk upload files, and again, they haven't. So we're gonna start including that going forward, but it may take a while for us to catch up with all of our files. So your SVG merge software is gonna still come in handy for quite some time. I'm thinking, I don't know, a while, let's just say, because we don't have the resources to go in and get all that done in one day, unfortunately. It's a very tedious process, especially to make sure that it works properly. Okay, there we go. One more to go here. There we go. I'm actually excited for Easter this year because I think Peyton he'll understand how to look for eggs. So that's going to be really cute, I think. Let's also, And we can do this later. Let's build this. I've already got all of these tabs pre-folded, and what we're going to do is apply glue to each of these tabs here on the side and grab its neighbor, line it up, and press and hold that in place. So once we actually build the egg, we're going to slide it through these little slits to anchor it. Okay, and we have this little hole cut out so that you can actually take a little tea light, pop it in there, and illuminate the egg as well. Now I've seen some versions of panoramic eggs in SVG form, but they've all been slice forms, which I'm not too impressed with. They look kind of mechanical. This is one of the first I've seen, maybe the only one I've seen, that actually looks like a real one. And of course, who else to bring that to you than Dreaming Tree? Okay, there we go. And just apply your glue to that tab. Don't overdo it. You'll be sitting here waiting for a year for each of these to dry. Thin it out. Bring that glue out to the very edge of the tab and press it into place. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do with the inside seam, because again, that is optional. Oh, it's not optional. I mean, if you're going to make it, you're going to use that unless you want to create your own seam. You can definitely make this. We went with a sort of fun theme that would appeal to, well, children and adults alike. But if you wanted to do something a little more classy, and you know what, maybe we'll even include like a freebie that is a little more I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. There's quite a lot of work involved in creating a seam like this for paper piecing, believe it or not, but it is really cute. Just making sure that all of the layers cut out properly and you can stack them correctly it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Okay. So I've got one left here for our base. Let's get our glue on there. Spread that glue out nice and thin. Make sure you don't put a real candle in this thing, otherwise you might burn your house down. We don't want that, obviously. Okay. And we're gonna put some vellum in there as well to diffuse the light. Okay, so we can actually we can do that now. We don't want to. There's this piece here that's going to cover everything up. We don't want to put that in yet because we still need to slide the egg through. But the vellum can go in. So let's just get the vellum in place. Okay. And make sure you're not obstructing any of the little slits for where the egg is going to go ultimately. All right. Then we're going to need this little piece. I'm wondering if we should wait to put this on until after the egg's in place. Yeah, I don't think it's really going to obstruct our ability. So let's get this piece in place now. We're going to start off by anchoring this to one side. So go ahead and apply your glue to just one of the tabs, like so. And line that up right out to the very edge. Make sure it's centered. Just focus on this one piece. Get right out to the edge. And press down on the tab from the inside, help it make nice solid contact. There we go. Perfect. Give that a few seconds to set, and then what you can do is just move it out of the way, and we're going to apply glue to the remaining tabs. Don't be afraid to go a little bit heavier with the glue here because we've got a lot of surface to cover, and you know that glue, well, it's not called quick dry. It's called quick dry for a reason, basically what I'm trying to say. But if you layer it out a little bit thicker, that oxygen, the air won't get to it as quick. I'll give you a little extra time. I'm going to spread this out to the edge of the tab so everything looks nice and crisp. There we go. And then when you close this up, focus on this side first. Get that centered right out to the edge because it sort of sets the tone for the rest of the sides as well. Get your finger in there, press down from the underside to really help it grab, and then start working your way around the rest of it. You might need to kind of nudge the walls in a little bit, and that's fine. And this is going to be in the bottom, so no one's really going to see it, but we still want it to look nice and clean. Okay, so if you need to kind of pull in a little bit, and chances are I may have to go in and use my little painting technique because we've got quite a bit of surface area here, and it's possible that some of this glue was already starting to set, but maybe not. That worked out pretty well, actually. And that's why it helps to, when you're working with a lot of surface, to add a little extra glue. And there we go. Okay, so there's our base. And now we can actually take and can put this down here like this. Okay, so let's flip this over, apply our glue. And just match this up. The cutout where the light is going to penetrate, there's no border there, so you want to make sure that that lines up, as well as little slits. So just make sure that those are all lined up correctly and not being obstructed. Otherwise, we're going to have no place to put our egg. There we go. Okay, so there's our base. And as I mentioned, where did that piece go? There it is. This piece we're going to put on later once we actually put the egg in place. So you can put that in there for now. There's our base. That's ready to go. In the meantime, these two pieces, we're going to actually glue these together to make it one solid piece, just because we want this to be nice and sturdy for when we're creating one half of our egg. Don't worry about perfection with this. This is what we call a skeleton piece, and it just helps with creating a structure. So if you get glue all over it, no one's going to see it. It's fine, but do your best to get it aligned as accurately as you can right on top of itself, just like that. Okay, all right, so it's time to get into the bulk of things here. Okay, so let's start putting together the structure of the egg, and you'll notice that at the bottom of each of these sections are some Roman numerals with, I guess, a few exceptions. It uses our standard numbering convention, and that is, well, let me show you here. Grab a piece of paper so I can show you. We've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is going to be 4 dashes. That's going to be 5, 6, 7, and then 8 is going to be 2 of these next to each other. Okay, so it's like a square or a circle as far as the number 4 goes. And this is going to be, you want to lay these out 1, 2, 3, and 4, like so. Okay, like that. Okay, so what we're going to do, these tabs here, we're going to use these to anchor this to our main structure. So what we want to do is we're going to begin connecting these together like so and bring them all the way down. And for this, yeah, this is going to take a little bit of time because we're taking flat paper and turning it into, you know, an egg, basically. This first one is going to be very important. I'm going to make sure that you get it lined up as accurately as possible. It's going to kind of set the tone for the rest of the egg. So let's just make sure that we've got that lined up as accurately as possible. And then what you can do is you can just kind of take it, move it out of the way to apply your glue to the next tab. And connect the next section. You're just going to work your way down. Now with this, you want this to, if you want this to go quickly and efficiently. Do not overload it with too much glue, because that is gonna, like I said, it's like watching paint dry. You don't want that. Okay. Wait a minute. Oh, I messed up. I grabbed piece number 3, so don't do that. Make sure you grab piece number 2. It's like, why does that look weird? Start again. At the top. And just get that lined up. Good thing I caught that. That would have been an awkward looking egg. There we go. Much better. Okay, next tab. And I caught that early enough to where it wasn't completely dry and I was able to pull it off. So thank goodness. Yeah, worst case scenario, you have to recut something. I'm sure it wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last. But we're just going to work our way down nice and slow, making sure that everything lines up as accurately as we can get it. Just follow that natural curve. Get those 2 edges butted up to each other as closely and accurately as you can. You don't want to go over the score mark. You want to be pretty much right next to it or slightly on top of it. Okay. This is where it really helps you with your what's the word I'm looking for? Your focus. This is the part that's good for your brain. You really have to focus and pay attention and engage. This is also where you get lost and get into that flow. That's pretty repetitive. Okay. So yeah, I've been working on a podcast. My first guest, I'm actually going to record on Wednesday. Her name is Kelly Lambert. She is a neuropsychologist. And I guess while we're on the topic of talking about getting into flow and your mind and how crafting helps your mind, that's what we're going to actually talk about. I forget the term. I've been reading her book, and I think this podcast is not only going to be good for you guys, but it's going to be good for me. It's got me thinking. It's got me reading. Get to talk to new people, open doors, create relationships. You know, kind of not feel so isolated here in the studio, lost in my own mind a little bit, trying to come up with content. The guests will be my content, and I get something out of it too. And I think I'm going to really enjoy doing it. So not only that, but I think it will help, grow Dreaming Tree. The more people that listen to it, they'll get to know me, and it'll be good. It'll be good all around. So you can see how nice that looks. Okay, so we got the first section connected. So this is piece 1, this is 2. Now find the one that has the Roman numeral 3 on it, and we're just gonna go down the row. We're gonna keep on just connecting the sections here until we're gonna build half of an egg at a time. And that's why we picked out some really pretty braid, and we're gonna use that braid to kind of hide the seam in between the two halves of the egg. So that's going to be pretty important. Otherwise, couldn't really figure out a way to get the design inside. There's some other things we thought of doing, but it would have made it hard to create a seam that fills the whole space inside. So this was the most logical method, I guess you could say. And just do your best to get this lined up as accurately as you can. Okay, there's one tiny little tab here. Get a little dot of glue on that. And just tuck that right behind this little guy. Now for this section, we get to kind of skip a few. And we'll go down here. So the front of it actually has less sections You know what, let's do this. Let's connect this section first, the bottom part, because that's going to help us with the angle a lot better. It's going to help us determine the angle, and then that last little tiny sliver, we'll connect that after we get this bottom piece in place, because then it'll kind of make more sense as far as where it needs to go, what direction it needs to go. That little sliver there doesn't really tell us anything about the shape or the direction of that section. Okay, but that looks nice. All right, so that's 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to go over to 4. Make sure the tab with the number on it is at the bottom. And again, start at the top. A little bit of glue there to get it anchored. And just get that lined up as accurately as you can. So this is where this front one, obviously, we're going to use this as our skeleton piece. I really love this new camera because it really shows, can really autofocus on what I'm doing. So hopefully it has been helping your crafting experience. I'm trying to get all of this stuff done today. Started with the most challenging project. I probably should have maybe reserved this for last, but I just feel like when I finish something a little more challenging first thing, it really gets me motivated to just kind of stay on that roll, if you know what I mean. Okay, so almost done here with this half. And really all you need to do is just focus on making sure those edges are meeting up nicely. And the rest of it will naturally fall into place. And there's a couple ways of potentially doing this. We'll determine, and I will share with you what I believe to be the most efficient and the easiest. There we go. And you can see how quickly I'm kind of breezing through this, and that is, again, because I am going easy with the glue. You overdo it with the glue, it just gets really thick, and it takes a long time for that glue to seep into the paper and then dry. And like I said, you're going to be sitting there watching paint dry. Like that one, I think I put a little too much on there. And if you get a little squirt of glue that comes out, it's okay. Just rub it off. We have a panel that's going to be going over this anyway, and it's going to cover up any little imperfections. Now, once we get to the actual panel, it's a whole different story. So we'll really want to focus there, but it's going to be a lot less tedious getting those panels on. And again, this is not your first time. It's been a while since we've done a curved surface like this, I feel like. But that's okay. There we go. All right. Okay, so we've got half the egg assembled. Those are the tabs. All right, this little guy, we're going to use this for the other half of the egg. One thing that we still need to do here is take and glue this onto our structure. Okay, and you'll notice here that there are a series of little score marks here indicating that this is going to have a very, very small little border around it. Okay, so just make sure you keep that in mind. You know what? If you're off a little bit, you're not even going to notice it. But that was the intent, and I'm sticking to it. Just trying to maintain a nice even border all the way around. I was going to ink that little skyline, but I don't even think you're going to see the edge of that once it's in place. So it's kind of pointless. You know what I mean? There we go. Okay. All right, so here's the deal. Here's what we're going to do. Okay. We're going to take this now. It's going to go inside of the egg, like so. Make sure it's nice and centered. Get all those tabs out. Okay, let's put that down flat on our surface. There is a point up at the top. You got to make sure that all your tabs are out, like so. You can see there's a point here, right at the tip. And there's a point there, right at the tip. Where the two, right in between those two top tabs. Two top tabs. What I'm going to do though, is I'm going to go down here and use this because we have a nice straight edge. Okay, we're going to start down here and get this tab anchored right to that little corner. So let's do that. Get that anchored right there. And just press and hold that for a second. And that's going to kind of set the tone for everything. We're going to do this side, then we're going to do that side, the opposite side. I'm going to put this down on my surface so I can press down from the inside. Okay, cool. Now we're going to go over here. We're going to anchor this side, like so. So throw a little bit of glue on this tab, and then we're going to do the top center. Just to make sure, and take a look and make sure that that point is matching up, and it is. We'll make sure we keep this nice and centered. And just pop that tab right into place, right there at that edge. And just press and hold. If you want, you can put that down on your surface and press down from the inside. Don't smush your bunny too much. But you can see how it's already kind of, it's there. There it is. Okay? So that's super cool. Now it's just a matter of going around. These are the tabs we're going to use to anchor this to the base. Let's go up to the top now. And let's apply glue to these two top tabs. Make sure that the top point right here of this is right in between those two tabs. Okay, and then you can put that down on your surface. And I'm going to push this way up against that little skeleton piece. And I'm going to push down from the inside to get those tabs to adhere. Okay, that looks like I'm slightly off there. So you push down more. There we go. Let's take a look. Perfect. Okay, and the rest of this really ain't going anywhere. So we can just kind of work our way around these tabs now. And I'm going to just do a few at a time here. Oops, a little too much glue on that one. Tuck those under. And we can push down from the inside. Make sure that this is hugging the very edge. And you can push down from the inside. Or, you know, if it's easier, this thing's sturdy enough where you can get your hand in there and you can push from the outside. I was maybe being a little too ambitious here. This is not the typical skeleton piece where you can kind of push down from the inside. We've got a lot of layers and moving parts in there, so it may not be the best idea to try to do it that way. But as you can see, it's going together nicely. And maybe you even could have possibly omitted some of these tabs, but that's okay. Just want to make sure that everything stays in place. Now, once you get towards the top of the little design inside, it's a lot easier to push from the inside because you're not dealing with multiple layers. So with this, I think I can go and start applying little dots. I'm just going to finish it off. I'm going to do the rest of them. I'm going to tuck them under, put that down on your surface, and then push, just kind of give that a push there as you push down from the inside to help those tabs stay in place. There we go, let's take a look. And yeah, it's not working out how I thought it would. Wait a minute. Was I pushing down on the wrong side? I think I was pushing down on the wrong side. Maybe. Yeah, that's probably what I was doing. Yeah, that's what I was doing. Okay, let's go over here. Got couple more to go. You don't want to crush it, so I'm trying to be careful. There we go. Looks good. I've got one little guy that needs a little extra love there. Right there. Give them a good push. There we go. Okay. So that just leaves this other side. Since we've got that half in place, I'm just gonna do it like this. You know, it does help to push from both directions. Not so bad. Well, I guess how else would you do it, you know? Yeah, maybe this is a lot easier actually. I can feel where my fingers are, and I'm just pushing, using my pointer on this hand to kind of push up against the one on my other hand. Get those lined up, apply that pressure. That's working a lot better. You know, sometimes you just have to experiment to see which method will work best for you. And there we go. Okay, so there's half the egg. Yeah, and that's ready for some panels, okay? Okay, so check that out. We've got an entire scene inside of an egg. How about that? Didn't think that was possible. And now we know. All right, so we've got another half of the egg that we need to assemble. Let's make sure we get this in the right order. Start with number 5, which is the little, it's the 4 little marks in the shape of a square with a 1 next to it. You know what, I can actually shade this in because no one's gonna see this. Let me just do that. There, you can see that. Okay, so that's 5. 6 is gonna look like this. 3, 4 in the shape of a square, and then 2 after that. 7 has that plus an extra one. I don't know, Mr. Elderbug. That's not a real leaf. Okay. Anyway, just gonna get right back into this and do the second half. So again, this is gonna be just kind of a repetitive sort of process, but once this is done, we'll be kind of on the home stretch, if you will. Okay. But this is probably one of the more important parts of the assembly. So let's just make sure that we do it as accurately as possible. So for those of you that enjoy my story time, I mean, aside from Dreaming Tree, you know, winters, I've been trying to, well, you know, everyone makes New Year's resolutions and such, and there's just some things that, some habits that we wanted to try to curb this year. You know, those it's more or less just keeping a clear head. I'm not talking about doing drugs, obviously, but I've been working out a lot and, you know, just being present, taking care of ourselves. I think we've lost a combined 15 pounds or so since the beginning of January, working out anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half a day, eating healthier, and just, you know, spending time with Peyton. He's growing like a weed. He's already talking. Pretty sure I shared a video. Yeah, I did. We, every night when we go to bed, he gets excited to watch videos on my phone with me. It's cute. When he starts getting tired, he'll start heading towards the bedroom, and he'll say night night, night night. I'm gonna go night night. Try to crawl into the bed. He's not quite able to just yet, but it's just a matter of time. He's becoming quite the daredevil, and crawls into bed, lays down on my side, pulls a blanket over him, stretches out. It's the cutest thing. And grabs a phone. We watch maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 videos. Okay, so this is 5, this is 6. Let's find piece number 7. It's right here. And we'll just repeat the same process. And before you know it, we'll be done with this part. And so we were watching piece number 7, don't forget. We're watching, I filmed, well, actually I was in the video, but somebody used my phone to film us singing happy birthday to him. And when the video was done, as I was looking for the next video to play, he started singing happy birthday in his own little baby way. So of course I started recording again, and I was like, what are you trying to say, Biddy? And he's got him saying happy birthday. So he's saying happy birthday. You can say happy, mama, dada. What else is he saying? He can say up. He says that, because we're always like, do you want that? He's like, yeah, that. He points and he says that. And then we have 2 cats, obviously, a Pumpkin and Salem. So when he says cat, it sounds like that, but I know he's trying to say cats. So yeah, the other day, Liesl sent me a video of him. She was with Gabby at gymnastics, and he was staring at himself in the mirror, just having this super elaborate baby conversation with himself. And he was at Grandma's last night talking to his cousin, who is, I don't think, she's not quite a year yet. And she's just looking at him like, who is this crazy kid? And what is he talking about? But yeah, he's got quite the personality. He's a lucky little boy. Gets to be with mom all day. Dad's always home. I love him to death. It's definitely changed me. For the better, obviously. Hopefully. All right, so getting close here. And then I think the skeleton piece on this one is gonna go a little bit easier since there's not a layered design inside of it. And then we have some panels that we're gonna put on here to, make it not look so boxy, give it a nice, beautiful, springy / Eastery pattern. And then we'll be on the home stretch where we just kind of put all of these different elements together. And that's when we'll reap our reward, this effort-based reward. Okay, there we go. Got one more here. So this is definitely, based on your input, as the old saying goes, you can make some of the people happy some of the time, but you can't make all the people happy all the time. And what I do with Dreaming Tree couldn't be further from the truth, because, everybody wants something different. So, yeah, it kind of, it gets to me a little bit when I feel like we can't make everybody happy, but I'm just starting to, not that I don't care, I just can't let it get to me, because I'm a little bit of a softie sometimes, and I let stuff get to me. But the best I can do is try to strike a balance with each and every release. So, for example, in this release, we have this project, which will be great for those of you that like something a little more challenging. Right? We have the bunny pants basket. That's somewhere in the middle. And then we have the card, which is going to take maybe 5 minutes to put together. So that one's easy. But at the same time, we didn't do that at the cost of it not being beautiful, because we spent the extra time not only making the machine do most of the work, but also coloring it in, so that all you have to do is print something out on some vellum and glue it into place, and voila, you've got a beautiful card. Also kept in mind that, you know, postage is a big factor sometimes when deciding if you're going to send a card out or not. So we made the card, sometimes, I mean, usually we go 5x7, made it a little bit smaller. So you know those 5x7 cards, they get kind of bulky. So anyway, hopefully you guys, you know, enjoy this bundle as much as we enjoyed putting it together. I was looking through survey comments, and yeah, they're all over the place, you know. So I try to take every little bit of information and then kind of come up with my own conclusions and help it, you know, somewhat steer my decision making. I can't, you know, that's another thing too, is there are some requests that I would love to fulfill, but it's just not popular enough to sustain our business. So, you know, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we have to appeal to the masses and try to make things appeal to as many people as possible. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to pay the bills. Okay, a couple more to go here on the main structure. All right, so there's the other half, and now this is where this little piece is going to come into play, just like we did with the front. We're going to pop this in here, make sure the tabs are all out. This is our center point here. We want to get that aligned with these two tabs up at the top, but again, I'm going to start by anchoring these two tabs at the bottom, there and there. Just make sure that that looks good. Let's start with this tab here. It doesn't really matter, left or right. Not a big deal. Just make sure you get that lined up as accurately as you can. While you're doing that, make sure the other side looks like it will eventually sit in the right spot, and it will. Okay, here we go. Holding that in place for just a few moments, letting it set. I'm going to pull that tab out, throw a little bit of glue on that, get that lined up, and press that into place, just like that. Okay, let's head up to the top, move these two middle tabs out of the way so that we can apply glue. Make sure that the point, the center point of this skeleton piece, rests in between both of those tabs, indicating that it is centered. And then press that into place. Same with the other one. Make sure it's pushing up against the skeleton piece as far as it'll go. And there we go. Okay, anchored here, anchored there. And now we just work our way down the road here. And you know, with this one, it's going to be a little bit different because we can't really stick our fingers in from the front. So we'll take these, flip them over, and then we're just going to press like this, which is actually even easier. A little dot of glue is all you need. And this is rocking and rolling here. Going super quick. Look at that, nice. There it is. Okay. Yeah, it would have been nice if we could do that with the other side, but of course, then we wouldn't have a design. And I can tell I put way too much glue on some of these. I'm just going to thin that out. Oh, that was a disaster. That's not going to work, Leo. What are you doing? I thought that would spread nicely, but it didn't. Just stick with the dots and get that off your fingers. Okay. All right, pull that in, press it down, make sure it's flush up against that skeleton piece as far as it'll go. Pop that into place. Get that one in there. And there we go. Okay, so there. So there's the 2 halves of our egg, right? And that seam is actually not that bad. But again, we're still going to have some really pretty lacy stuff that's going to cover that seam up. All right, so now what we're going to do is actually put some panels in place. So I'm going to go back to this egg, and you're going to have a total of 6 of these. Okay, they look like flower petals. You're going to need 2 for the front, and then the other 2 for the front obviously have the little cutout for the hole. These 4 are going to go on the back. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to start in the center. And you'll notice here what I did was I did this with one of them. I'm going to take and I'm going to place this piece between my finger and a dowel and just give it a slight curve. We want it to kind of curve against the surface, at least a little bit, you know, and actually maybe we can make that a little more pronounced up at the top. So kind of curve it until it hugs the surface nicely. Don't mess up your paper. Okay, that's pretty good. So you get the idea. As long as it has a little bit of curve and you release some of that tension in the paper, it'll be a lot easier for it to sit flat up against your surface. Now with this one here, just be careful not to rip it. And very gently curve that little inner part. Okay. And so the idea here is to try to get these pieces aligned and butted up to each other as close as possible, especially in the center. As we work our way towards this side here, if we leave a little bit of a gap here, or if it's not perfectly flush, again, we have this saving grace to cover it up. So if you are going to have a gap, make sure that somehow it ends up here and not at the front, okay? And then again, we have this little cutout here as well, which we're going to use as sort of a guide to make sure that we have everything in place, okay? So we want it like that. And what I'm going to do is start with applying glue to just the top of this. I want to anchor it at the top. Pop that into place. Hold it right at the very top. And then check your alignment. You might need to, like I said, nudge this down a little bit so that this matches up with this little cutout. And if it does, then you know you've got it properly anchored up at the top, and just kind of hold it in place for a moment. Let that set. There's going to be flowers on top of this, so if you kind of squish it too much, don't worry about it. It'll be covered up. But again, check that alignment. Now we can flare this out a little bit now that we have it where it needs to be, and we can apply our glue to the rest of this. Go easy with the glue here if you have thinner paper. You don't want to warp it. Okay, and then just bring that down up against the surface. And you want it to kind of flow. You don't want it to, you want it to hide those angles. So don't create more of those little segments by pushing down too hard. You want it to be as smooth as possible. But at the same time, you want to make sure it's making good contact all the way throughout, like that. Okay. And there's going to be a little bit of a gap there. That, again, there's no way you're going to get it completely flat, and you don't want to. That defeats the whole purpose. We're trying to create a curved surface here using flat paper. Now I have a little gap there at the bottom that I'm going to clean up with my little scrap piece here. I'm just going to tuck some glue in there and just paint that in place and really push down right there just to make sure that's all nice and flush. And if there are any other little areas with gaps, especially along this inside cutout, we want to get rid of them. Because we have, there's like a little doily piece that's going to go over this, and we want this stuff to be as flat as possible. Nice and flush. There's going to be a little bit of resistance here, so take your time and make sure that everything is lining up and making good contact throughout. Okay, got a little gap here. Just paint a little glue in there and press. There we go. Not so bad. Get rid of that. Grab a fresh scrap because I don't want to get glue all over the place. Find those little gaps and clean that up now. It'll make your life a lot easier down the road here when we have to put that little scallop in place. Okay, so just going to continue on here. We're really only going to have to do this for these little internal pieces here where the cutout is for our scene. I think the rest of it will go a little more smooth. Okay, but again, pretty important to make sure we get this nice and flush because there's another step that will benefit from taking this extra time here in just a moment. There we go. And just press that into place. Perfect. Looks great. And this little section here, try to flatten that out a little more up against the main structure. There we go. Okay, cool. All right, so that's there. Now we're going to grab this next piece. And again, we're going to try to line this up as accurately as possible. Don't forget that you want to make sure that it matches up with this cutout. Okay. And it's going to go like that. I was going to ink this, but I didn't think inking between these two sections would be beneficial. It would probably make the egg look kind of weird. I want it to look like a real egg with a beautiful design. Okay, so let's match that up. Try to butt that up so that first layer as close as you can. Make sure that wherever you're anchoring it, that it is following this little opening here as well. And mine is, so that's exactly where it needs to be. Just hold that in place for a moment just to get it anchored. And like I said, the rest of this will be a little bit easier. Okay, just hold that in place at the top while you flip it out and apply your glue to the rest of this. This time I'll try to get a little bit more glue along this perimeter here so we don't have to potentially do as much cleanup, but I still think that we're going to have to do that anyway. Okay, so bring this down and very gently, very slowly get that hugging up against that little cutout. That's going to be your main goal. The rest of it will sort of naturally just fall into place if you do that. Okay, there we go. It's looking pretty good. Well, that worked out nice. Cool beans. I've got a few little gaps in there, like I anticipated. I'm gonna clean those up. Okay. This little part here did not sit flat. It's okay. There's going to be a lot of moving parts here. Just be patient. Take your time. Let's do it right. There we go. You can actually kind of folding this down a little bit to flatten it out. And that's okay too. All right, keep on cruising here. Down this little center, this little opening. And I'm just gonna keep on, kind of like you're making a pie crust, a decorative one. Let me get rid of that. I'll start a fresh one here. Oops. Yeah, we're kind of definitely on the last leg here, so this is where it counts. So take your time. Take your time, enjoy the process. There we go. Need a little more glue on here. There we go. Yeah, it looks pretty seamless, I'd say. All right, I've got a good sized gap down here. And sometimes when you're doing this little method, it actually helps to put the glue right at the very tip of it instead of on the surface of the paper, so you can really get it in there. But either way, that's fine. That looks great. That's, I think, as seamless as it's going to get. Okay, so that looks great. And now we can finish this off on these two sides. Again, try to make sure that this next one, you have it butting up against this layer as close as you can get it. Okay, like that. You don't want a gap like that. Try to nudge it in there as far as it'll go. And then if we have a little bit of a gap here on the end, that's fine, because we're going to cover that up anyway, right? With our braid or our lace, whatever it is. Now with this one, I think it's safe to say you can put glue on the entire surface, especially on the bottom, because we need to anchor at the bottom as well. Okay, there we go. And pop that into place. Again, trying to kind of get rid of that seam so it's seamless. Line it up as accurately as you can, and it should end up being flush on the back. Okay. Help it kind of hug that surface. And if you have a little bit of a seam is inevitable. I'm never going to make it perfect, but we can get pretty darn close, I think. There we go. That looks nice. Yeah. It's very nice, actually. Looks great. Okay, head on over to the other side, the final side for the front. Let's get our glue on there. And pop that into place. Just kind of feel it. Get a good idea of where it's going to sit. Try to eliminate that seam. Just try to get the two sections as close to each other as possible. Okay, so I'm going to say that that looks good. Now we're going to let that kind of set a little bit. We're going to start putting these panels in place now. And again, I would start in the center and then work your way out. Again, to make sure that the inner seams are as tight as possible. And then if we do have a little bit of a gap, you know, we'll deal with it towards the end where we can actually cover it up. And you can see this is going to be a lot easier to work with on this side since we're not dealing with an opening. So go ahead and apply your glue. And you see there, I ran it through with my dowel to help curve it. Get it nice and centered. Start at the top or the bottom, doesn't really matter at this point. Okay, make sure it's nice and flush on the bottom. You can put this down on your surface and just kind of press it up against the egg. There we go. That looks good. Grab my next one and apply my glue. We're almost there, guys. It's really going to start coming together now. Okay, let's grab this one, giving it a line on the bottom. Butt that up as close as you can to its neighbor. Again, the top is going to be covered up by those flowers, so that's going to be a very forgiving area. I would focus more on the seam here. Just make sure that the seam is as tight as possible. Okay, just keep holding that down until it sets. This has got to be at least, this is definitely not 80 pounds. It's got to be more than that, just based on its weight. So it's a little bit more difficult to work with, but that's fine. Okay, make sure the top is nice and anchored. That looks good. All right, moving on. Okay, let's get our glue applied. 2 more panels, and then it's time to really start seeing what this is going to look like. Okay. Put that up as close as you can. Make sure it's nice and flush on the bottom. Should be flush along the edge here too, because when we join the 2 eggs, we don't want that sticking off. It's going to make it harder to get them joined together. There we go, that's nice. And you know, there's these little seams here. I think if you just kind of play with and push the paper a little bit, you can kind of flatten it out in certain areas so that, well, I mean, it doesn't look too bad. I wish it was a little more consistent, but I think how we have it is more than fine. All right, we got one more to go. And if you want, if your seams just maybe didn't work out as well as you hoped, you can always take and, I have to fix that top part there, it just didn't stick for me. You can always take and run some additional braid along all of the seams to really cover it up, if you know what I mean. And that's fine too. That will actually look really nice. Either way, however you decide to do it, will look great. And for all I know, I may decide to do that too. We'll see. Because I mean, that little gap there is so tiny. You know, could you picture this running down the edge or something a little bit thicker? Absolutely. Why not? Okay, I got to fix these top 2 here. Again, the curve is very substantial there at the top, and unless you're sitting there holding it down properly, like I should have been, it may have a tendency to kind of creep up a little bit. And that's okay, it's expected. Okay, so there's that one. Let me throw a little extra glue on that guy. And also hold him down. And there's the other half of the egg. So now we're just going to join the 2 halves together. And we're kind of on the home stretch. Yeah, literally. That was not so bad. All right. Cool beans. All right, so now, as you can see here, I'm going to connect these 2 halves together. You can hot glue it if you want. I'm just going to go with regular glue. I think it'll do the trick. Okay, and I'm not overly concerned about getting it perfectly seamless because again, we're going to be covering it up with some beautiful lace. But I do want to make sure that I get enough glue to hold the two sections together. Okay, make sure it sits flat. Use your surface as your guide. Okay, so I've got the two halves connected. Now it's time. Now remember, this little part here with the vellum, you want that in the front. Otherwise, if you put this in the back, then you're illuminating nothing. Okay, so this is front. Let's get these tabs straight down like this so that we can slide it through the base. Well, all 8 of these tabs need to go through. So take your time. It might be a little tricky. It helps if they're straight down, obviously. Line that up. Poke them through. And guide each one into the slit. It might help to just grab like a little dowel so you can pull the tab towards you a little bit to help it slide in, or give it a little push, whichever direction it needs to go, until you have them all going in. It's a little tricky, but there we go. I think we got all of them through. Just hold the top of the egg. And then just flip it over like that. Okay. And then we're going to push those tabs out. Or you can do it in, whatever feels better. It doesn't really matter. Just throw a little bit of glue on each of the tabs. Make sure it's sitting flat. And just push that down up against the main structure there. Okay, so I'm going to start there. And then I'm going to go over to the opposite side. I think it's easier if you put it in. It's just the tab naturally wants to go that way. There's less resistance, so it'll just make it easier on you. Okay, let's go over to another one. Push that down. Don't crush your egg in the process. There you go. Some sections might need a little more time than others, so you can always push from the inside too to really help it grab. And the thinner the glue, the better. Okay, just hold that in place. I didn't put the trimmer on the inside just yet because I knew we were going to be kind of jostling this thing around a little bit, and I did not want to destroy it, because you can see my hands in here. Didn't want to mess with that. Okay, a couple more tabs to go here, and then our egg will be secure on its base. And one more. That thing ain't going anywhere. Probably could have got away with maybe just 4 of them, but for good measure, I mean, it is an egg, it's precious, gotta protect it. There we go. And the base is just left open, so you can literally just pop it right on top of a, that's super cute already. I love it. Okay. And now we're gonna cover this up like this with this little panel. So go ahead and apply your glue. Should cover up all those tabs nicely. Just make sure you get it centered. That's a little off. Try that again. All right, so the next thing we need to do is put this little piece in place. Okay, and you'll notice that, well, first off, I want to make sure that we get the orientation correct. Okay, so you can tell that this bottom part here looks more like the top of an egg. Okay, so it's wider at the bottom. So we're going this way. And one side has this additional little tab, okay, that we want to put on first. And it's going to go over here on this side. You'll notice that there is a little score mark here at that tab. You want the edge of this to match up with the center in the middle there. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to anchor this. I'm going to put glue on the first tab right at the top, and we're going to get that anchored first, just to kind of set the tone for everything. So again, make sure that that is centered. And then just take and push it behind and hold that little tooth in place. You're not actually gluing the scallop part to the surface. It's going to be kind of free floating. We just want to get the tooth in there. Okay, so make sure that one tooth is there to anchor it. And then what we're going to do is just a few at a time, we're going to pull these teeth out. And it's kind of difficult to get your glue nozzle in there. So you're going to grab a scrap piece of paper, load it up with some glue, and we're just going to take and just paint some glue on those tabs. I'm going to do like 4 at a time. Okay, so that first one's anchored. Push that up against the opening as far as it'll go, and press that little tooth into place. Again, we're not putting glue on the actual scallop on the outside, just on the inside, just a little tooth. Okay, and try to keep in mind and count how many you've glued down. And you may need to be a little patient with each of these to make sure that they actually stay. Take a look at your work and then pull out a few more teeth and put some. It's okay to go a little bit heavier on the glue here when you're applying it to the scrap piece, because we need to be able to make sure that each little tooth gets enough glue. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to keep on going down the road here. I would maybe count to 4 for each one, maybe a little bit longer, depending on your material. Okay, take a look. Those teeth look good. Pull out maybe 4 more. And apply some glue. Now you can actually kind of lift it up a little bit. Okay, again, push it up against that opening. And 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Until we get all the way around. You want to make sure that's nice and flush up against that opening. Okay, looking at my teeth in there, they all look like they're making good contact so far. That's good. And let's pull some more teeth. Now we're dentists. Okay, I'm going to reapply my glue to this piece here. And you can actually, for now, you can still kind of lift this up a little bit. And paint some glue on those teeth. I'm going to get rid of that one so I don't start getting glue all over the place. Okay, press that into place. Make sure those teeth are inside. As you get towards the bottom, it's going to become a little more important. Okay, let's grab a few more teeth here. And just working our way around. Until we get to the end. Okay, just kind of holding the edge of this. There we go. Keep those fingers clean. Push that up against the opening, press down on the tooth, and now I can kind of look and make sure that I'm in fact following that curve. And I can already tell that is going to end up terminating perfectly where it needs to be, right in that center part. I mean, it might be a smidge off, but it's not too bad. Okay, got a few more to go. And then we'll just repeat the same thing on the other side, and then we're pretty much ready to start embellishing with our flower, our braid, all that good stuff, and just kind of putting the finishing touches on this. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of counting fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. Take a look at those teeth. If you have any stray ones that maybe are not sitting as flat as you'd like, just grab another scrap and let's clean it up. Let's do it right. Okay, I've got these two here and then one here. Just didn't stay for me, and it could have just been how I applied the glue, and that happens. It's okay. Just clean those up. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 2 at a time here since they're so close to each other. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay, so that half is in place perfectly. That looks nice. Okay, let's grab the other half now. Oh, thought I messed it up for some reason. Okay, and you can start at the top, you can start at the bottom. It doesn't really matter. As you can see here, what we're going to do to start this off on this side is anchor it to that little tab that exists there from the previous piece. Okay, so thin out that glue a little bit. Grab this guy, pop him in sort of halfway, line it up with that existing piece from the other one. Make sure it's lined up accurately so it sits perfectly flush on top of that little section designed specifically for it. And just hold that in place for just a second. There's still a tooth that corresponds to that section, so we still want to anchor that. And I'm going to anchor that piece first. So let's throw a little bit of glue on the back of that. We can do that with our nozzle. And tuck it back and press and hold. Maybe give that one a hold for, maybe 8 seconds instead of 4, just to be safe. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now we've got some continuity. And now we can pull a few of these tabs out at a time. Grab our scrap, throw some glue on there, and start hitting it very gently with a little bit of glue on each of those teeth. I'm going to do probably like 4 at a time. Okay, I'll throw that one out. And push it up against that opening and hold for a count of about 4, I'd say. Nice little details. That one's going to need a few extra seconds. There we go. There we go. Okay, coming along. All right, pull some more teeth. Grab your scrap. And I'm just going to do a line like this. So I can literally just do 4 at a time. And just get rid of that. Push it, tuck it, and press and hold. Let's do it for about a count of 4. So initially we're going to do this. You could, if you don't want to mess with this, you don't want to deal with having to glue this. If you have some braid that you'd rather put around there that looks nice, feel free to do that. I'm cool with that. I just personally did not like how it ended up looking because it's, putting a braid or an embellishment like that on a straight surface so much easier than trying to get it on something that curves while maintaining symmetry. So I said, well, you know, let's make it out of paper because it will be more consistent for everybody. Okay, so I just put glue on probably like the next 4 or 5. Make sure you hold it there for a count of at least 4. Okay. Maybe a little bit of resistance there. Make sure your fingers aren't pulling it back from being sticky. And it's working out nice, and it looks like that's going to terminate exactly where it needs to. So we are rocking and rolling here. I had one there that looks like the glue just I didn't hold it long enough. Okay, I'm going to skip that one for now. I'll go back to it. Let me apply glue to these next 4 or 5. There we go. Okay. Hold it however is comfortable. And set, like I said, a 4 count at least. 2, 3, 4. Grab that next one, push it up against that opening. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, start curving it in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Beautiful. Okay. And as you can see there, pretty much meets perfectly right up to the end. Let's grab hopefully my final piece of scrap here. And apply that glue to each of these little teeth. Okay. Hug that curve. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this last one, as you can see, should meet up pretty much perfectly with that little tab there. Might have to kind of push it out slightly. That's expected. I'm going to grab one more piece of scrap. And just paint that tab as well as the tooth. And let's join those together. Okay, I'm joining the outer part first, just to make sure that it looks nice and flush, and then I'll push the tooth in place. And there you go. Then we can kind of flatten this out, or even pull these out a little bit. All right, so at this point, we're ready to join our seams here on the sides. Now, mine didn't turn out that bad, but I still wanted to decorate it with something. So I'm going to grab this lacy braid that I have. And for this one, because it's not, so you can use like a braid like this where you would definitely want to glue it right onto the seam. Okay, but with this one, for me, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to slightly glue this to the left side of the seam so that it kind of faces forward more, because that looks nicer from the front if I do that. Okay, so what I would do is just cut enough braid. I would do one side at a time. There's no sense in trying to do both sides at the same time. I'm going to cut roughly what I need, plus a little extra, just so that I'm not having to deal with this entire strand. Okay, and I need to get my hot glue gun going here, because we're going to hot glue this. Okay, let's turn that on. Yeah, so you get the idea here. You're going to put your braid on, then we're going to put the leaves and the flowers in place. And if you want to bring it all the way to the top, that's fine. It may end up being a little bulky if you do that, so I would maybe just leave a little bit of room at the top, since you're not going to see the braid at the top anyway. You know, whatever feels right. So I'm going to put that around like that. I think that's really pretty. And let me grab a surface here for my hot glue to live on. Let's get it really nice and hot. Okay, and I'm actually just going to put glue right on top here. And just go little by little. I would not try to put glue on this entire thing. Just work section by section, inch by inch, until you get it all the way down. So I'm going to do that real quick and get my little lace on here. And then we'll wrap that up and I'll show you where to put the flowers. And then we can call it a day. Okay, so I've got my braid on. And again, because of the lace and the little pearls in the center, I actually, instead of going right down the seam, went just a little bit in front of it. The lace still covered up the seam, but it looks better because it doesn't seem like it's floating as much, especially from the front. So that turned out really nice. Okay, now let's talk about finishing this up as far as the flowers and such. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start off with this layer here. Okay, and it's going to go right in the center like this. Now, again, I'm running into an issue, not an issue. I just need to train this down more because mine is kind of being pushed up by my lace. Okay, but we want that to, it's going to go down mostly flat. Okay, so it's covering up a little bit of the work that we just did, but that's okay. And we're going to use hot glue to keep that in place. We'll just make quicker work of everything here. But try to get the center, that little circle right in the center of your project. Okay, this will also kind of create a little base for our flowers as well. Okay, so we'll get that in place. Okay, well now that we have cardstock up here, we can take and apply glue to this. Okay, and the next layer that we're going to put down is this layer here. Okay, so you can literally just glue that right on top of that previous layer. And just make sure it's centered. If you want to use hot glue, you can. Make sure it's nice and centered. Okay. And we'll work on, and actually may not even need to. I was going to say we could work on training the flowers a little bit more if necessary, but I don't think it's going to be necessary. Okay, so that's already looking great. If we need to, we can always kind of pinch this so it kind of hugs the surface a little bit more. All right, and then finally, we got this layer of leaves. Okay, so hot glue or regular glue, whatever you want to do, I'm just going to hot glue it. The flowers are going to go on top of all of this, so you won't even see it. Fingers are getting all gluey. There we go. Okay, now that looks great already, but now it's time for our little flowers. Okay, so now that these have had plenty of time to dry, what we're going to do is kind of take them and curve them in a little bit. There's going to be 4 of them. Okay, and we're going to put one. I want that white part on the bottom. Okay, the first one's going to go right about there. You can bring it down a little bit. So you don't want it directly in the center. You want it slightly on this hemisphere, okay? And I am going to use hot glue for this. I'm going to put hot glue right about here on that first little dot. Okay, remember the white part needs to be down. and then just pop that on there. Now, if you want, you can also, instead of hot glue, you can use some pop dots. And then that way you can rearrange things if you want to. Okay, you kind of scrunch those in a little bit. Okay, so now that I've got that front flower on, I'm going to go back here. And again, just for the sake of this video, you can hot glue these if you want, whatever. It's up to you. I'm just going to use a pop dot. And that's going to go on this other hemisphere, on the other half of our egg, pointing that way. Okay, but it's also going to be centered. And we'll put two more here. Okay. And I'm just going to put a 3D Zod right there. Take this guy, just kind of scrunch him in. Just shape it like a flower. Okay. And that's going to go right in there. Like so. And then just kind of part the Red Sea there a little bit. And you can hot glue, whatever works for you. I'm just putting a little Zod in there. Whoops, oh no. Nothing a little hot glue can't fix. Get that on there. Okay. And just bring that in because it's, like I said, it's going to be kind of fighting with the other ones here. I'm going to park that a little bit. Just pop it right in there. Like so. Okay. And there we go. Okay. So that's pretty much it. One other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take these little pearls. Look how beautiful that looks. I'm going to take these little pearls and I'm going to run them along the edge here as well as the bottom, just to kind of bring everything together.